Hey, welcome back to the Bruderhof YouTube channel. We are reading chapter 43 of Following the Call, Living the Sermon on the Mount Together. And this is a rather bracing chapter. God's kingdom first. Here's the verse, Matthew 6:33-34. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. So the two authors that are excerpted in this chapter are Leonard Ragatz and Christoph Friedrich Blumhardt. And both of them, well, Leonard Ragatz in particular, he was a religious socialist, a Swiss religious socialist. And Christoph Friedrich Blumhardt was also a social democrat in the late 19th century. Mm-hmm. And they really emphasized the here and now of God's kingdom.
Yeah.
And Leonard Ragatz really goes after religion in this piece.
Does he ever? Yeah.
The opening sentence, the kingdom of God is no religion, but rather the abolishment of all religion. Mm-hmm. That's probably a tough swallow for many of us because we associate, as he writes, religion with the duties we feel we owe our Creator, with worship, with prayer, mm-hmm. With other religious observances. But Ragatz is basically saying that's not what Jesus brought at all.
Yeah.
He brought the kingdom of God, the rulership of God in people's lives, in all aspects of people's lives.
Yeah. I think this kind of brings up a really interesting paradox, and it's kind of framed like that later by Blumhardt too, where Ragatz talks about how, in general, it is a characteristic of religion that in this fashion it creates its own image. It becomes a kingdom for itself. And isn't that interesting how, like, we kind of want structure in order to hold on to our faith and our values and like a system in order for us to keep going in the right direction. However, that rigidity can become stifling and actually do the exact opposite of what we intend for it to do. So I think that this chapter challenges that, and that like how we truly have to seek first the kingdom. And both of these people, you could say these passages are kind of political in a way, but the challenge is good. And I think you have to read that with an open mind.
Yeah, I mean, like exactly what you were saying about all of us sort of seeking a system or a structure.
Yeah.
The Bruderhof, we're from the Anabaptist tradition. We're a pretty non-liturgical church. We don't have a lot of high holy days. I mean, we do have celebrations, and sometimes we'll have discussions internally, like shouldn't we be having more regular thises and that's, observances, religious observances, fasting, or well, not so much fasting, but gatherings where we read from the Bible and so on and so forth. And I think what Ragatz and Blumhardt are sort of getting at here is that's really not it. Mm-hmm. That's not what we should be looking for. We should be looking for God's rulership in all aspects of our lives. Ragatz writes, one doesn't need a religion to serve God, to serve this God. One serves him by serving people. And then he later observes, nowhere does Jesus give instruction regarding any special practices or works. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting thought.
And I think ultimately, where this comes into conflict the most is, like, we want to live the kingdom out here on earth, and how does that actually look? And Ragatz is kind of pointing to this new dawn where religion, like, won't even be a thing because God's kingdom will have taken over. And I also thought some of his thoughts were interesting about how, when we strive to live within a religion, whatever it is, it's so much of it is about a cultivation of feelings and emotions, and how that's not really what Jesus wants of us. Like, that's not really the goal, is to cultivate a certain feeling about how we're supposed to live. It's really trying to grapple with his commands and putting them into practice. And then Blumhardt goes on to say how that really comes down to serving other people. And he says, this in the end is the surest way to influence those in power. A people's community that accomplishes something on the practical level will gain respect and authority among those who don't believe. And I thought that was a really important point, like how your deeds and your actions are a part of truly seeking God's kingdom first, and letting each day go by. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Isn't that quite true?
Yeah, it's really a very simple command, and yet sometimes so hard to put our hearts and minds around. Seek first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be given to you. But I think, like, if we remember it in any situation that is perplexing, be it a relationship or with another person, or a situation where someone is in need of practical or spiritual, emotional help, if we have this in mind, it can be transformative in our communities.
Yes.
And we can then experience, as Jesus tells us, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered, there am I, right? We don't need, lofty cathedrals to experience God. We don't need, special rituals or, even sacraments. We just need to experience that indwelling. And that's actually, I think, in the end, what, like, here on the Bruderhof, that's what we live for, is these moments, right? Where we have this as Regat's right, this deep awareness of being with God, right? It's not the structure so much. It's these moments of transcendence where God really is with us, where the Spirit is with us. And that can and should happen, at any time, not, once a week or at special gatherings.
Yep. 100% agree.
So many folks will probably not agree with everything. I don't even know if I agree with everything in this chapter.
Yeah,
but
I don't think we're here to like preach anarchy or like let go of all
No,
structure. It's not that.
Structure is also, valuable. So be very interested to hear people's strong opinions, objections, clarifications in the comments. Thanks for watching.